Hello everyone and welcome to Math 302, Business 360, SoSci 302. My name is Dr. Heather Adams and I am going to be your instructor for this online course. Before we move straight into the material, I'd like to take a little bit of time and look at the orientation for the course and how it's going to work. So, this course is set up to focus on learning statistics and is structured around several activities that should help you improve your comprehension in layers as we go across the semester. So the first of these is a warm-up quiz. Then we have narrated PowerPoints, homeworks, exam readiness assessments, and the exams themselves. So let's take a look at each of these a little bit more closely. So warm-up quizzes. Now these are going to be 5% of your grade. They test your basic reading comprehension and introductory problems. This means you need to be reading the course material before you start them. So we need to be reading through the section before you take your warm-up quiz, okay? And then when you're done with your warm-up quiz, that should give you a good orientation for moving into the narrated PowerPoints. Now, these warm-up quizzes are mandatory. If you miss 3 of them, you're going to lose 10% of the possible course points subtracted from your grade. If you miss 6, you have an F for the course. This should give you the idea of how important these warm-ups are. You need to be coming in and doing these in a basic comprehension of the material to be able to keep up with the rest of the lecture pace. Now, narrated PowerPoints. Now, these are derived from my on-site PowerPoints, but they've been modified to meet the different environment and the needs of online students. So, just like my PowerPoints that I do in class, we're going to be spending a lot of time in these working through sample problems. Stats is an experiential thing that you need to do to learn. Okay, so whenever you're directed, you need to complete the steps for solving sample problems before advancing to the next slide. So that means, as you're watching this on the YouTube, you're going to need to pause the video, work through the step that we've just discussed, get your answer, and then turn the video back on to check your answer. This mimics the class experience that optimizes your comprehension. Keep in mind, the majority of some sections will be working through sample problems. Again, stats is experiential learning. We do it, but we learn it by doing it. Now, many people have concerns about trying to get it right as they're going through it the first time, so they don't necessarily stop and follow the steps along. They want to get the right answer. This makes you feel better emotionally, but this does not help you learn. Remember that if you have a mistake plus a correction is where you learn. That is where the learning occurs. Making a mistake, figuring out what you did wrong, figuring out what you were thinking that made you make that mistake, change your understanding of the material, and then you have learned. So when you're watching these PowerPoints, do not be afraid to make mistakes. They are, in fact, the safest place for you to make mistakes. You're not going to lose any points here. So this is the place to make mistakes and then learn from them. If you're going through the narrated PowerPoints and you're making a mistake and you can't understand why you're making the mistake and why you're going wrong, that is, of course, an excellent place to contact me with a question, okay? You can contact me either with an associated homework problem, which we'll look at in just a minute, or you can send me an email or ask me a question on the discussion board. Okay? Now, it is recommended before you start the narrated PowerPoints, you need to complete the associated warm-up quiz. Although you complete these after the due date for 50% of the points up until the exam close, it is optimal that you complete them before you start the narrated PowerPoints. Therefore, they are required at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the day we start each new section as listed on the schedule. You need to look through the associated homework so you can get an idea of where we're going to be going with the PowerPoints, and you need to have a starting set of notes from the text that you can then add to as we work through the material. If you'd like assistance in putting these together, please let me know. I'll be happy to help you with this either online or meeting with you in person. Alright, now these are also modified to meet the different environment and needs of online students. So we'll have several activities that we'll be doing across the course of sample data sets to help you get ideas and understand particular principles and theories. So these class activities will be incorporated in through a modified discussion board posting. I've built in a whiteboard component throughout where we're solving the problems. So in class, where I would normally be pausing and having the students solve the problem on the whiteboard as we are going through it step by step, I've built that same thing into these narrated PowerPoints. But again, you need to be following the pattern that the students use in class, where you're stopping and completing each step yourself as we go along. The timing of these is also very different. So the full lecture, it goes for an hour and 15 minutes. So what we're going to be looking at here is obviously much shorter sections. So you're going to be having 15 to 25 minute sections usually that you'll be completing as we go along. All right, now homeworks. Homeworks are 30% of the grade. This is where you practice what you've learned. You need to be identifying your mistakes and your misunderstandings and then correct them. You get, related to this, you get 3 tries for each problem. So this is again a place to be making mistakes, but don't just blindly change your answer. Go back and look at what you did wrong. What were you misunderstanding? To help you with this, you have several different resources built into the homework problems. So when you're looking at the homework problems on the My Stat Lab, you'll see up in the right-hand side an icon that gives you several different options, including help me solve this problem, show me a similar problem, or email my instructor. So you can use any of those to be getting assistance. I strongly suggest that if you're struggling, use the help me solve this. That will provide you dialogue to walk you through each part of the problem step by step. You can use the show me a similar problem and as it works through it for you. However, this is a bit passive, so it's not as likely to help you identify your mistakes. Again, making a mistake, finding that mistake early, and then going back and figuring out what you did wrong is how you're going to learn best. And that's the ultimate goal here. All right. And then the third option allows you to email your particular unique homework problem to me. Each of these homework problems is generated uniquely for you with a separate set of data. So telling me that you were doing problem number 5 in section 2.4 is not going to help me at all. You're going to need to send me your specific homework problem. Also, when you're sending me your homework problem, you need to be telling me what you have done so far and where you're stuck and why. Do not just send me a homework problem that's blank and asking me to help you with it, okay? Because that's basically asking me to do your homework problem for you. And I can't help you figure out what you're doing wrong if you're not telling me where you're stuck and what you've answered already. Okay, so again, homeworks are a place where we're going to be working through it, identifying mistakes, fixing those problems, and refining your comprehension. And again, this is reflected in the fact that you get 3 tries for each problem. Okay, exam readiness assessment. Now this is 10% of your grade. So when we're looking at this, you're going to see you have the same parameters as the exam, but you don't have a time limit. It will give you a time you're supposed to complete it by. It will track your time. However, you don't get penalized for here once you go past that time. On exams, there is a time lock. Once you get to the end of that time, you are done. So this exam readiness assessment should give you a pretty accurate assessment of your exam performance. Students often have had problems in the past with assessing their performance from homeworks to the exams because on the exams, you can't check each piece as you go along. And also on the exams, you only get 1 track. So the exam readiness assessments I've set up this semester to help you get an idea of how well you're doing and what your comprehension is. These are basically built off the exams themselves, and that is reflected in the fact that in previous courses, exams were worth 60% of the grade, and here I have made it 65% of the grade, and here I have made the exams only worth 55 and the exam readiness worth 10%. So overall, this is the same weight as it was for other courses, only I've moved that 10% up to the readiness assessment. And since you actually don't have a time limit there that cuts you off, that gives it a little bit easier than previous courses. Last, exams. Exams are 55% of the course grade. So when you're looking at this one, you're going to see that this is where we're going to be assessing your learning up to date. This is going to be the most exacting part. You're going to have a 4-day window to sign up to go in and complete it, but you're going to have a 3-hour time allotment for it. And once you start it, you must finish it. You may not come back and start on it again. Once you're in, you must finish it at that sitting. So make sure you're allotting the full 3-hour time and make sure you're giving yourself a window without interruptions. And make sure, again, you're going into your exam with the best set of notes that you can. One of the common mistakes I see for students is they try to memorize everything for the exam. This is too much information. It's going to be very complex. So it's going to be important that you build good notes for yourself to help yourself solve the problem. Okay, now let's step back for a moment from thinking about just the structure of the course and think about why we're even taking this course. Why statistics? Why does this even matter? Well, when we're looking at this, statistics is in fact the science or the process of learning from data. So we measure, we control, and then we communicate about uncertainty and probability for outcomes. So when we're looking at all of this, this combines with solid research methods to allow us to make knowledge. That's really what we're doing in this class. You make knowledge. You want an answer to a problem. Statistics is part of getting the answer, a data-based answer. So when we're looking at these, we can see that this is the ninth fastest growing occupation according to the U.S. Department of Labor. I've heard some estimates it's gone up even higher since the last time they did this estimate. So here you have a link. You can go over to the labor statistics That link is posted on the Blackboard course under the associated folder for this lecture, so you can go look at that material yourself. And as you can see, here are some mean annual salaries of statisticians from 2015. So statistics is literally the science of learning from any data. Any decision that draws on data involves statistics and statisticians. This means you're going to find them in a host of different careers. So you're going to find various different careers in the CDC, public health at all levels, especially emergency response plans. And again, this link, you can find this on Blackboard in the associated folder that will take you to some career bios for various statisticians. You can see where they're working in the field. If you're interested in social justice and human rights watchdogs and response groups employ statisticians to be taking a look and looking from raw data to begin to identify patterns and possible areas of concern. Marketing is pretty much all statistics. Whenever you're assessing the successfulness of a marketing plan, we use statistics. Biostatisticians at NASA, sports, huge statistics used in sports. In fact, one of the big stat sites, Project 358, has got a whole section set up looking at sports with the NFL and other estimates. Ecosystems, so when we're looking at the health of ecosystems, when we're looking at emergency response plans for ecosystems. Politics is huge with statistics, polls, and accuracies, as we saw in the last election. And clinical trials at pharmaceutical companies, that's a heavy part of statistics work there as well. So hopefully this is just a smattering of what statisticians do, but as you can see, stats is used everywhere in whatever career you're going to be going in. Most likely you're going to be wind up working with a statistician at some point in time. So even if you're not doing the stats yourself, you're going to need to understand enough about how statistics work to be able to understand and work with the data that the statisticians are passing on to you. So when we're using stats, these are the basis for making informed decisions both in our professional arena, so whether we're looking at cost benefits of implementing a new system, effectiveness of marketing, efficiency of an intervention, whether we're talking about an intervention for a business or an intervention to stabilize an environment problem. In the personal area, this is also going to be really important for healthcare. When you're trying to make decisions about treatment for a particular health problem, let's say for a cancer, what are the rates in terms of different types of treatments and matching them to you and where you are? That's going to be statistics. Voting, heavy polling, heavy information about statistics, and again, making purchases via marketing. So being able to negotiate marketing information and being able to make an informed decision that's best for you is again going to require you to use statistics, but in the personal arena. All right, last here for this piece, we're going to be looking at where we're going in this course. So what is our end goal? At the end of this course, you should be able to solve on your own a problem just like this one. So here's a sample problem that we'll be working at the end with near the end of the semester. So we have a study of proctored and non-proctored tests in an online intermediate algebra course. The researchers obtaining data from 62 students. So they have half of them from each course. So I've got 31 students from the proctored and 31 students from the non-proctored. Using a 0.01 significance level, we're going to test the claim that students taking the non-proctored test get higher scores than those taking the proctored test. We're going to apply both the p-value method and the critical value method for making this assessment. Now this is the kind of thing that can be very important for you when you're an instructor. It matters a lot if students taking a non-proctored test are consistently getting higher scores than students that are taking a proctored test. That's the thing that I want to know as an instructor and that I need to take steps to incorporate into my course, whether I'm going to start having everybody having to take proctored tests or whether I'm going to make some other steps to be able to correct for that problem. So this is a classic issue when you're looking at a particular issue. You want to know if there's a meaningful difference between these two groups. If there is, you're going to want to do something about it. If you're not a meaningful difference, you don't need to worry about it. So we would go through this with the steps over here. So we'd have to determine the alternative and the null hypothesis. We're going to have to determine effects of type 1 and type 2 errors, identify the appropriate statistic. We're going to have to determine our rejection region and apply for our interpretation, including assessing if it's a one-tail or a two-tail test. And we're going to have to present an accurate language that's going to be comprehensible to people who are not statistics, so a non-statistics reader. So when you're looking at this class, and you're looking at where we're going to go across the course of the semester, this is what we will be accomplishing by the end of the semester. So as you can imagine, sitting where you are now and looking at this, to be able to do all of this on your own we're going to have a busy semester. So we're going to be moving pretty quickly, and it's going to be really important for you to keep up with the material for the course. However, the end result will be at the end of the course, you will be able to take data and answer a question like this that may be relevant to yourself or in the future reference for your employers. So this kind of gives you a wrap up both for how the course is structured, why statistics in the first place, why are we even studying statistics, why does it matter, and then giving you an idea of our end goal here in this class. Where are we going to be at the end of this semester? You're going to be able to solve problems like this. Okay? Now, I strongly suggest that you also take a few moments when you finish this video to go through and watch the other associated video, which will talk about what you need to be doing for doing your verification for enrollment for the first week of the semester, along with some other tips in orienting you to the course. Welcome to Stats, and hopefully we're going to have a very successful semester.